Hi guys, so I'm here with a little life update for you. It has been a while. Please excuse the face bags under my eyes. I managed to do my hair today, but I haven't done any makeup because I don't normally wear makeup and I never really think to do it. So it's been a while. I've got my phone here to check things. My last video was 2 months ago, and oh my goodness, my last pregnancy update was 27 weeks. Yeah, so that was a while ago. So I will update you now. So this is a life/pregnancy update. Obviously I'm way past pregnancy now. I was due on the 3rd of September, so since 27 weeks not a lot happened. Lots happened. I had a little bleed when we were away on holiday, but that was fine, turned out fine. I had a pretty rough last few weeks of pregnancy. I was having contractions a lot. I went to the hospital at 35 weeks with contractions, but they didn't progress at all. But I was having contractions pretty regularly, and I was just over it. I wasn't feeling good, it was painful, it was all just too much. So when I was 38 weeks plus 3, which was a Tuesday morning, it's a long story, but in fact this will probably just be one video birth story. So my mum was away in Edinburgh with my dad. They had friends coming. They had friends visiting from abroad, so they were in Edinburgh. My brother, who's my next on call, was working on the Tuesday, and that was the only day he couldn't be on call for me. And of course that was the morning that I woke up thinking, oh, these contractions are far more regular, I can time them, they're painful. So I called my best friend. She came up to look after my boys, which also included bringing her children, so massive credit to her for looking after our 4 crazy kids. And my mum's next door neighbour drove me in to the hospital. Greg met us there. So this was about 10 o'clock in the morning. I texted my mum, told her what was happening, and she was texting back and forth with us all morning, saying, do you want me to come home? What do you want me to do? And in the end we decided we'd like her to come home, so she got on a bus. So my dad stayed in Edinburgh with our family friends, and because they were due to come back the next day anyway, so my mum got the mega bus up the road, and she got on the bus. She was on her way home. My contractions had sort of dropped. I wasn't having very many. They were really irregular. I was checked and I was 3 centimeters when I got there in the morning. So it started to get towards lunchtime, and they asked me if I'd had breakfast and things, which I hadn't, and they said sometimes if you don't eat and your blood sugar drops, then it can stop contractions. So they got me something to eat. They told me to go for a walk. So me and Greg went for a walk, and every time I sat down, if I stood up again, I had a contraction, and they were really painful. So we went back through to the labour ward, and what do you know, they all stopped. No more contractions. And I put all of this down. I need to talk about all of this, but I am going to be making a complaint to the hospital, because in our hospital, I know it's different in America, it works differently everywhere. In our hospital, you can go to labour ward, and if you're not progressing, they send you home. Especially like for first time mums who are expected to take days possibly. But it says in my notes about Benedict, who's my second child, was born in 3.5 hours. That was it. From start to finish, from, oh, I think I'm having a contraction, to he was here, it was 3.5 hours. My first son was only 12 hours, and that was under an induction, which normally takes longer as well. So I deliver fast, and I don't necessarily have regular contractions, which they knew about all of that. So, plus the room I was in, I was uncomfortable. I didn't feel relaxed. The midwife, I didn't click with the midwife straight away, and I think that had something to do with it. I didn't click with them. I just didn't feel that confident or comfortable. So they decided they were going to send me home because my contractions were not regular and consistent enough. I had a consultant appointment scheduled for that afternoon and a scan anyway, because I was getting growth scans because the baby was big. So they said to me that I didn't have to go home, but I couldn't stay in labour ward. I was being discharged. I was welcome to hang around the hospital, but I couldn't stay. So we had a consultant appointment an hour later anyway, so we hung about for that. So I got scanned, I lay down to get scanned, had a contraction. Stood up from getting scanned, had a contraction, and the scan woman didn't think anything of it. She did guesstimates of weight and stuff, and that was fine. Went through to the consultant's room, told them that I'd come in that morning with contractions, and that, oh, weird fuzziness there on the camera, and that they had been inconsistent. They never checked me or anything, even though I said I was still having contractions when I stood up and that they were really painful. She just said that if we got to 40 weeks, she would induce me. She actually said 41 weeks, but I said I couldn't cope with this pain for that long. So she said 40 due date. So that was it. We were sent home. So in this time, we told my mum that we were getting sent home, but she was already on her way up, so she carried on coming. Thank goodness. So we went and waited outside. I was too hot whenever I sat down. I was absolutely roasting. I was having a contraction when I stood up. I was roasting. It was just not good. So we sat outside. Mum arrived. We still sat outside. She said later on that she should have sent me back in, but she didn't know either. We just went by what the doctors and the midwives said. They said it was fine. We assumed it was fine. Time to go home. So we waited for my neighbour to come and pick us all up. We dropped Greg back at work because he'd missed the whole day of work for nothing, we thought, and so we decided just he could go back to work. So we got home. All the way home I felt rough. I had maybe one contraction in the car. It was chaos, which was great because my friend was looking after the kids, and it was just, they were all having fun. I walked in, and as soon as I stood up from the car, I had a contraction, and I thought, I do not feel good. I walked in the house and I was like, I have to go and lie down. My friend said later on that she looked at me and thought, you're having that baby. So I went and lay down in my bed. My friend went home with her kids, so it was just my mum and my 2 boys at home. I had 4 contractions in 20 minutes, which is 1 every 5 minutes, and they were excruciating. So I got up. I was screaming into my pillow. I got up. I came and sat in here on my bouncing birthing ball thing, and the boys were having dinner. And I remember my mum saying to me, you're gonna have to try and calm down and quieten down because you're gonna frighten the boys. Because I did keep making a noise because I couldn't have timed the contractions because they were coming irregularly, and like one would stop and then another one would start and another one would start right away. Like there was no definition to them. There was no definition to the contractions, so I couldn't have timed them. I said to my mum, I think I'm gonna have to go back in. So we phoned my brother who had finished work at this point, and mum was like, well, phone him and get him to go on, you know, to get ready, you might have to come over. And I was like, no, I have to go back. And she's like, right, okay. So I phoned my brother, told him he had to come to my house to look after my boys. No bother, I'm on my way. I phoned the hospital because you have to phone them before you go. I phoned the hospital, and when they answered, I started to have a contraction. So I screamed at them that I'd been in that morning and I was coming back now because I was having contractions and they were really, really painful. And the midwife on the phone went, yep, come right in. She could hear. So then I phoned Greg and I said, go back to the hospital. I'm going back to the hospital. I feel terrible. And he was like, yep, okay, I will be there. I did all this in my bedroom. My mum didn't know I'd phoned Greg, which is slightly important to the story. So I stood up in my bedroom and I had another serious contraction, and I screamed into my pillow and I started to scream, and my mum said, Caroline, you have to quieten down because you're gonna disturb the boys. And I yelled, I can't because I need to push. I didn't know I was gonna say that until I said it. And then I yelled, I think you have to phone an ambulance. So my mum phoned 999, emergency services. I walked around my bed and I looked in the mirror and I thought, oh no. And so I took off my clothes, I lay down. My mum came in and she was on the phone to the ambulance and she said, no, I can't see anything. She looked away, she looked back and was like, oh, there's a head. Yeah, I just knew at that moment that baby was coming. I just lay down and went for it. And I was terrified right up until that point. And I was terrified after, but the actual delivering my baby I wasn't scared because my body was just doing what it was made to do, and I didn't actually have any control. Like the woman, the ambulance dispatcher said to my mum, don't let her try and stop it. And I was like, couldn't even if I wanted to, it's fine. So the ambulance woman was really, really helpful. She told my mum, she was like, get a pet. She told my mum what to do. She was like, put baby on mum's chest, put her towels. Yeah, helpful hint. If you are pregnant, don't buy new towels like 3 weeks before you're due. I redid my bathroom and I bought brand new towels. I put all my old towels away in case we might need them in the future. You know, like if we had guests or something, we might need extra towels. And so it was all my new towels that were out in my bathroom, and that's what we used because my mum just went and grabbed towels, which that's what I would do. And so those towels are no longer with us. So we're back to the old towels. So yeah, don't buy towels when you're about to give birth, when you're going to give birth. Or new bedding. Yeah. So the ambulance woman said, put baby on mum, cover her with a towel, make sure the cord's not around her neck or anything. And just wait, the ambulance will be there in a few minutes. My brother turned up at this point and he shepherded my children weren't right there. They were right there to begin with, like when my mum first came in the room, but my brother arrived really quickly and he got them out of the room. This is what I will tell you right now, okay? The ambulance woman made my mum write down the time of birth, which was 1848. In the evening, obviously, 1848 on the 23rd of August. My mum they wrote it on her hand. From the time I phoned Greg, so I phoned Greg, I stood up, I walked around the bed, I thought, oh goodness, I need to push. And the baby being born, we were able to work out based on the time of the phone call and the time of her birth. That amount of time was 9 minutes. So I went from thinking, I need to go to the hospital because I'm going to have this baby, to having the baby on my bed in 9 minutes with my mum. My mum is not medically trained, she's not a nurse or a midwife or anything like that, but she's amazing. She delivered my baby and oh, she did a good job. So the ambulance then arrived, they were there really quickly, 2 ambulance women who were fantastic, love them. They cut the cord and my mum took the baby and went through to the living room and introduced, it's a girl by the way, introduced my girl to my brother and to her big brothers. So she got to meet her big brothers and her uncle literally 10 minutes after she was born, if that. I have a really cute picture which I'll insert here or at the end. I put some pictures at the end actually. Yeah, I have a really gorgeous picture of her meeting her brothers. Benedict was not bothered at all, he just stayed on his iPad, but Isaac was freaked out because we'd been telling him that mummy goes to the hospital, the doctors help her have the baby, she comes home with the baby, not mummy's gonna have the baby in the bedroom. So we were there for a couple of hours. Normally they like to try and, well, they would like to try and get you into the hospital as quickly as possible, but my blood pressure was incredibly low and I was very faint. Every time they tried to sit me up, I was quite faint and not very well. So I had to have some fluids through an IV, which they just did on my bed. And it was difficult, the placenta didn't come away quite as easily as normal. If you have had a baby, you get an injection in the hospital to help the placenta be delivered. I obviously didn't get that, I wasn't in hospital, so it was a bit difficult. And so then they transported me to the hospital in an ambulance, me and the baby. We zoomed in, we got blue lighted into the hospital with our ambulance women who were fantastic. We arrived there and my mum stayed at home. She stayed home to clean and she would come in afterwards in the car with all my stuff. And that's when she phoned Greg and said, well, she phoned him after about an hour. So we were still there, she was holding the baby. She phoned Greg and she said, the baby's here. And Greg was like, oh yeah, I know, I'm at the hospital waiting for you. And mum said, no, the baby's here. Greg had been waiting for about an hour, was wondering where the heck we were because nobody had phoned him because my mum didn't realise he was on his way to the hospital that I'd phoned him. So we got there The ambulance woman said, "Is your husband a tall, anxious looking man?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'll be him." And when he came into the ambulance, the ambulance lady said the baby's name. We've been going back and forth over what to call a girl. I'd picked a name that I thought was beautiful. My mom wasn't sure, but she came around to it. Greg wasn't sure because he can't spell it. But he got in the ambulance and he said, "You can name her whatever you like after that." So I got to pick the name. And yeah, so then we went in, we did all the usual bits and bobs. We were in there really late. So she was born at 6:45. My mum arrived with bags and things, and after everything, getting checked, stitches and all that stuff, I got taken up to the ward with the baby, and Mum and Greg left, and they didn't go home till about 1 o'clock in the morning. My brother stayed with my boys till that time, which was brilliant, and looked after them. He was fantastic as well. Everybody was amazing, and I will say that I'm putting in a complaint about the hospital sending me home, because they know my history with labour and everything, and I've always wanted 4 children, but this is putting me off the 4th. The birth was terrifying and traumatic and scary, and I'm still having anxiety attacks about what could have gone wrong. We didn't know. I mean, we didn't know everything would be fine and she would be all right. There was no preparation or anything. And as it turns out, I mean, everything wasn't fine, because 3 days out, we got home on the Wednesday and I got taken back into the hospital on the Sunday with a womb infection, and my iron was so low that I'm still taking iron tablets now. I have to get my iron checked every 2 months at the moment. I must have lost more blood than was expected, but they couldn't tell because I delivered on my bed, and duvets soak stuff up. So duvet, all got thrown away. So I mean, it was scary. It was not okay. So there's a complaint gonna be put in, because they need to stop sending women home when they think they're not progressing quickly enough based on that exact moment. Like, it's not okay. So yeah, I got a womb infection, I had to go back into the hospital. So the first couple of weeks of her life, I would say maybe 3 weeks, I don't feel like we had them. Like, it was all a bit of a daze. When I went back into the hospital, I went by myself when my mum took me, and we left the baby at home with Greg and the children. And because we thought we'd just be there for a day, we didn't know what was wrong. I just knew I had a temperature and I was passing clots, so I had a temperature. But they kept me in for a week. So the next evening, my mum brought the baby in. Because it's the maternity hospital, I could have the baby with me if I wanted, and we decided that I would. Because I was on a ward with all these women who just had their babies and all by myself, and it was the most miserable thing. Don't ever do that. Yeah, so it was pretty horrendous those first few weeks that I was on a lot of medications and things, and I don't really remember much of it. I wasn't very well. My mum came and looked after the boys for the week after when I came home, and it's only really now, the baby will be 10 weeks tomorrow. It's only really now that I'm even getting remotely back on track. I'm still not right. I get really tired and I have dizzy spells, which we think is based on the anemia and the low iron stores, but we can't test again for another month to see what my bloods are like. So I'm still taking iron tablets and things, but we'll just have to wait and see. So that is my birth story, which I wasn't going to totally share, but there you go. Not so much a life update as a birth story. And so yes, I had a little girl. She was born on the 23rd of August at 1848. I also have her weight and length written down, because she didn't get weighed until we got into the hospital. So I mean, she was screaming for food. So she weighed 8 pounds 3 ounces, 3 3/4 ounces, sorry, and she was 50 centimeters long. We have named her Persephone Ophelia. I will put her name up here. It's spelt funny. It's spelt Persephone. Persephone is the Greek goddess of spring and the queen of the underworld. So yeah, Persephone Ophelia. We call her Persephone, or Posy for short. The boys call her Posy most of the time. My sister-in-law calls her Percy. You can call her Percy, Posy, Sephi, anything. But her name is Persephone, which I like to call it that. And she's adorable. She's asleep right now, otherwise I would show her to you. I will endeavour to get some footage with her to show you. She's just wonderful. But I will put some pictures up here. I will put the picture of Isaac meeting his sister for the first time and a couple more from when she was really tiny. Yeah, and she's amazing and wonderful and gorgeous. And I'm going to do updates on her as well. But she's just fabulous. I love her dearly. I am sorry it's taken me so long to get this video done and up, but suffice to say I have not been well. This has been a really, really, really rough ride. So, yeah. But it's not putting me off another one, really. I just think I need more help. Maybe a planned home birth. Yeah, so that's it guys. Thank you for watching. I'm going to do a regular life update video as well, I think, because this one has lasted, let me see, 22 minutes. 22 minutes for me to tell you the birth story. It took me twice as long to tell you about it than it did to do it. Okay, thanks for watching guys. If you got to the end of this, well done. If you are about to have a baby in the first one, please don't take my story as anything scary. Please don't let it put you off having babies if you don't have them. Because totally worth it. Totally worth it. Okay, thanks for watching guys. Bye.